Hi everybody, hope you're all well. This is part 27 of 31 Days in August, and if you saw Friday's video you'll know that today is going to be another Random's Viewer's Choice comic. This one was picked by your Proline buddy, and like I said, if you saw Friday's video you know how much of a pain in the arse it was to get this comic, but it was well worth it. It's number 25 of Manhunter. Now this comic is an absolutely brilliant series, part of a brilliant series. It only went on for about 32 or so issues, which is really unfortunate because it was a fantastic story. It got critical acclaim all over the place, but it never got the following that it really deserved. It follows the adventures of Kate Spencer, who is a district attorney, and she is just getting sick and tired of seeing all these costumed villains getting off and let off by technicalities, even though they've murdered loads of people. Yeah, they get sent to mental homes, or they just get completely let off because a police officer didn't read them their rights properly, or they'd get sent to minimum security prisons and end up escaping the next day. So she decides to borrow some items from the evidence locker, and she has a uniform from the Dark Stars. Now the Dark Stars were a group of intergalactic police officers, a bit like the Green Lanterns. Yeah, she modifies this so that it fits her and that, and she also adds bits onto it. She's got an energy claw. She also has a staff that can shoot energy beams out of it. Now with this series, the same as the other two comics that I've just recently reviewed, which was JSA number 70 and Hawkman number 14, both by Jeff Jones. This was around about the period of the DC universe in the early to mid 2000s, where the DC universe tried to amalgamate their past and their present. So they would keep, they would introduce new characters to get new readers in, but also have those characters so that they would be intertwined with older characters and more into the history of the DC universe, which kept the older DC fans happy as well. I mean, there's no greater thrill for a comic book fan, I think, especially if you've been reading comics for a long time, to be reading a new comic where you've got a new character in it, and then you see old characters coming in as well. Case in point, this one, you have Mark Shaw, who was the Manhunter in the 1980s, 1990s. You have Obsidian, who was the son of the Golden Age Green Lantern. You have Iron Monroe, who was introduced. He was created to be an answer to the question of, if the Golden Age Superman didn't exist post Crisis on Infinite Earths, what happened to all of the Golden Age Superman adventures? Who was having those adventures if they still existed? And they created the character of Iron Monroe, who was indestructible, super strong, and he could leap buildings at a single bound. So they didn't have to get rid of those stories, but they could, they didn't have to say, well, it was Golden Age Superman, even though he doesn't exist anymore. You also have Mr. Bones, who originally appeared in Infinity Inc., who is now the director of the DEO, which is the government organization that keeps an eye on metahumans and makes sure that they behave themselves and don't cause too much damage. Yeah, this comic was very deep into the Manhunter history. I mean, Kate Spencer was the 7th character to take on the Manhunter. The very first Manhunter was Dan Richards in the 1960s, I believe, and there's a lot of history in the Manhunter character. You have the Manhunters in the Green Lantern. There was a crossover event 1988-89 called Millennium, which explained how the Manhunters of Dan Richards and Paul Kirk were also something to do with the Manhunters that the Guardians of the Galaxy created. And I can sort of see how it could be quite daunting for new readers to pick up a comic from a company that's had 70+ years of history that they've got to try and understand. But I still don't see the point of completely wiping out that history and that all the rich characters you had in there just so you can please some new people to pick up your comics and completely blank all the old fans that you have. You know, that's just my opinion on what DC's done in any case of their reboot, but that's by the by. I'll get off my soapbox now. In this comic, there is a character called Sweeney Todd who is supposed to be the living embodiment of this Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of London. He can create cutthroat razors out of energy, and he uses them to slice people up and drain their energy from them, killing them. Kate Spencer and her friends, one of them is Obsidian, who was the Golden Age Green Lantern's son, go to this club in Los Angeles, and they're all enjoying themselves, they're having a good time, they're drinking, and then this car comes screaming into the club, driven by Sweeney Todd. He starts slicing people up with his energy cutthroat razor blades. Obsidian uses his powers to try and stop him, but Sweeney Todd slices him up with his razor blades, hurting Obsidian, which shouldn't really happen because Obsidian is a living shadow creature when he uses his powers. Kate ends off going off, gets dressed up in her Manhunter uniform, and to show the extent at which she is willing to go to save innocent people and to take down the villain, she actually attacks Sweeney Todd, manages to get his own energy cutthroat razor off of him, and slices him around the throat, destroying severing the link that the spirit of Sweeney Todd has got with the body that he's in, and destroying the spirit and killing the host at the same time. This is something that superheroes in the DC universe didn't really do. DC never had a character like the Punisher who would actually go around and seriously hurt or kill villains. I suppose you could say that this version of Manhunter was DC's answer to the Punisher. If you've read Garth Ennis's Jennifer Blood from Dynamite, okay, that is an extreme version of it, but it is very similar with the Manhunter character, at least, not necessarily with Kate Spencer, the alter ego, but the secret identity, but with the Manhunter identity, what she's willing to do to the villains to stop them from hurting innocent people is extreme. It is what the Punisher would do, and to a certain extent what Jennifer Blood would do, even though in Jennifer Blood she's doing it for her own agenda rather than doing it to save innocent people. If you manage to get, I don't know if these are in trade paperback, but if you can get some single issues of this, it is definitely worth picking up, because like I said, that this, to me, the between 2001 and 2009 was probably the best years that DC had since the late 80s, sorry, mid to late 80s, early 90s. The comics that they were bringing out there were absolutely brilliant. You had people like Jeff Jones that were banging out comics every month, and every time they wrote a comic, they were absolutely brilliant. I think in the 2000s, in that period of time, I think I was buying more DC comics than anything else. There was a few Marvel comics I was picking up and everything else. Nowadays, I pick up 5 DC comics. So, you know, that says to me how bad DC comics are at the moment. But again, that's my opinion. So yeah, if you can pick up any copies of this, it is definitely worth picking up. Definitely worth getting. So there you go. That is part 27. There is only 4 more parts to go, and then after that, I'll be doing the raffle probably on the 2nd of September. All according to how the Doctor Who party goes, I suppose. Yeah, it's. I don't know if anybody's going to be sitting there going, take a shot every time you hear a Dalek saying exterminate, or every time you hear somebody ask the question Doctor Who, or every time he mentions the word fez or bow tie. But you know, these parties can get pretty wild. You know what Doctor Who parties are like. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you everybody for subscribing. I haven't said it in these videos that much, but if you've got any comments that you want to make, comment section down below. Love to hear from you. If I don't answer you back straight away, it's because I'm trying to make the last few videos of this 31 days in August that I'm doing here, but I will answer everyone back eventually. I'll go back and, you know, communicate with everybody. Thank you everybody who's been watching. I've now got over 11,000 views on my channel, which I think is absolutely brilliant. I know there's some channels out there that got millions, but when I first started doing this, I didn't think I would get any views at all, or very few views. And the fact that I've nearly got 200 subscribers and over 11,000 views now is just astonishing to me. So thank you everybody, because you're the ones that did it. You know, I just done these funny little videos and put them up. So yeah, tomorrow will be another completely random comic from my collection. And yeah, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed this, and ta-ta for now. See you later.